All right, let's face it. In high school, we all had that one English teacher. Well, that English teacher is me. I'm Brian Kulak, a career educator and author of The Hot Seat. Every week, I reconnect with former students, colleagues, and fascinating people to explore who they were, who they are now, and the wisdom they've gained along the way. Welcome to The Hot Seat. Welcome, Krista McGrail. It is so nice to see you again. We have cheated, though, because we have been in contact the whole time since you graduated, so this isn't our first reunion.
I know. Once you have me, typically people can't take me.
Can't get rid of you, obviously, yeah. And I was saying before I finally got you in that your chapter is going to be one that incites fury and inspiration for readers. So we'll tease a little bit so that they have to read it, but in a sea of a lot of the stories that were told that either made the book or didn't, I mean, yours was a no-brainer just because of what you had to go through to get to where you are. So with that, so your class of 2011, tell us who you were back then, tell us about high school, and then tell us who you are now.
Back in high school, I definitely was, I feel like a lot of people's friends, I had a small group of friends, but because of sports and everything that I was involved in, I feel like I was very well-rounded with people that I could talk to. As a student, I'm sure I was very annoying.
No, not at all.
And never shut up.
That part's true, but not the annoying part.
But I loved high school. I mean, you couldn't not like Audubon because it was so small and intimate. And as a student, I would say I definitely struggled for a while just to find my own confidence and like my way of learning. A lot of people kind of shot me down along the way. But yeah. And now I am a teacher going into my 9th year.
See? Full circle. I love it.
Yeah, I am special ed and elementary school certified. Okay. I was a special ed teacher for 4.5 years in Heights, full time, but then a general education class opened up for 4th grade, so I took that. Okay. But I have the inclusion class every year, so.
Okay. So what school in Heights?
Glenview.
Who's your principal?
Mr. Rosen.
So Mr. Rosen is in my mentorship group because his mentee is a principal in Collingswood. So he and I have been working together for months, and I know he's an old baseball guy from Heights too. So, and I know that you guys are going through a little bit of the same situation we are in Collingswood with the contract. So yeah. We won't get into that shop talk, but it's so funny.
At my summative meeting last week, I actually told him I think that we should do this as a staff, like in staff meetings. And I was telling him about the book, and I never dropped your name, so he would have known.
So funny. I'll send him a text after this and tell him that we know each other. All this time I didn't know that you were there. The special ed piece will be important later when we talk a little bit about your chapter. I know you, and I know why you're in special ed, and obviously you transitioned to 4th grade. But you represent so much of why teaching is so important. Right now, here we are, so many years later, having this conversation. We've had many conversation in the past as you're on the way to teaching, and obviously knowing you as a student and then what you had to go through to get to where you are makes your hot seat a little bit more special than I think some others. So I think what I want to hear about the hot seat in 2011 is when you were in it, when you were a student, what was your impression of that process? Were you one who, like you mentioned when you came on, did you sweat your way up there? Because I remember you doing it so often and didn't seem like it really bothered you.
You know what? I really liked the adrenaline rush. And
nice.
And I also really liked, as we did it more people were coming out of their shell. Yeah. So I felt like I was so out of my shell as a person that if I could maybe subconsciously, kind of open that door, crack the shell of some others, maybe we would get, a little deeper with one another. And I think that really happened.
Yeah, that's what Kaylee was talking about that last week. And I got some feedback about that, like privately, that it wasn't really always about the person in the seat as much as it was the conversation that started after. So whether the person in the seat was really good at speaking and the answer like had substance or not, people were like, oh man, I wish I had that question. And then we were just opening up to you guys, and some of those crosstalk conversations were the most powerful because, like you said, there's kids sitting in their shells in 12th grade. They've gotten this far, remaining in their shells, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I want to say something about what I just heard. And I can think of so many kids that did that, and even if it was just a couple times, and then their hands would go up sheepishly, like I'm sure some of your students do, and I would see it, I'm like, whoa, yeah, whatever, I don't care what you say. I'm so glad that you want to offer something here. So I hadn't really thought about the community aspect of it as much, but I didn't sit in it. You know, you guys were sitting in it and sharing amongst each other. And the last thing I'll say before we move on is that I think you're right about Audubon. Someone else said to me, I think that was one of the few schools and few times where that could have been pulled off. You know, people like Beth Kanzanese, who were doing things like that all the time, just to have a title or a name for it. It was just a place where you could do that and feel safe and comfortable. So I'm glad that you guys had that experience and now are turning it over onto your next students. Now, there was some discomfort. So I don't remember the question was, Krista, but
it had to have been something about like imagination or something.
I don't think so. I think because I have the questions and I look back at it trying to figure out. So guys, what happened was Krista was a rock star. She was in the hot seat all the time. And this one particular day in her senior year, she was in the hot seat. And I can't remember the question, but she did what we taught her, which is like pregnant pause, take your time, really think about things. And then she said, you know, sometimes when I drive down a long highway, I think to myself, it'd be really easy to hide a body in the woods. And there was like this pause, like no one knew whether we should laugh or like, should I be calling crisis, get somebody up here stat? And you were so like, it was just so you, like you weren't putting something on. It was just it was a thought that you had. Yeah. It somehow answered the question and you were like, your hands were in your head. It was one of the greatest. So we talk a lot about the successes of the hot seat, but that was not that it wasn't a success, because I'm sure I gave you the question.
People were watching their back after that, I'm sure.
This would be, if this was a documentary, it'd be a great way, like, cut away to it, and like somebody's driving down the road and looking off and wondering about how they can bury a body.
Well, I mean, you just never see anybody on the side of the road. Like, you know, you pull over with a flat tire. I feel like, of course, people are thinking about it.
Are they?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even like to kill a bug, so I mean, I'm
right. I don't.
Not actually going to do this.
I don't think you had anything planned, but it was that spontaneity.
If I did.
Well, yeah, if you did, you pulled it off, and here you are. You're going to be a Netflix special someday.
I'm going to have lights out front of my apartment here.
And anytime.
Like, we found the body on 295. It could only be one person.
It's got to be McGrail. Yep. She gave herself up.
Yep.
But that's the spontaneity that would come out, and I think that we laughed so hard in the hot seat sometimes, and we did it in a way that was comfortable and never at each other. There was just a collective respect, I think, and if someone struggled or said something odd, you know, people either looked down or shuffle their feet, but it wasn't like, you know, high school movies where everybody's staring at the kid, they run out, you know, it's a whole thing. So I just love that story about you, and it's so different than what your experience in the hot seat is and what led you to the chapter in the book that you have. So let's talk about that. So
where did we begin?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes against everything we're taught as educators and really just people. So, you know, without giving up her name and not giving up too much, I'm sure many people who are watching read the chapter. Talk about what that was like for you. What was that experience like for you?
So before ninth grade, I got diagnosed with ADHD, which I'm sure any teacher in previous years would have probably told my parents about it. But at that unique age, I had seen people already on this medication, and they, to me, were zombies.
Okay.
And I didn't want to kind of lose that piece of me because I feel like I'm such a fiery person. And I had taken it a few times, and I didn't really like how it felt.
What was it, Krista? You remember what it was?
It was Ritalin at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was like blacking out on it. I wasn't remembering things. And, you know, back then there wasn't a ton of medication. So they changed me to Adderall, and I was just like, I'm not going to take it. So we had this IEP meeting, and the case manager, a few teachers were there, my mom and myself, because at that time and at that age, you're allowed to, you know, join your own IEP meetings. And the teacher had said, you know, whatever book we're about to read, like she's not going to get it. She's not going to comprehend it. It's well beyond her. And then, and again,
and you're sitting
there. Oh, yeah.
You're listening to it. Okay.
Yep. And then she tied it into that I would never be successful in college. You know, I was a stretch at a C student in her class. So my mom freaked out.
Good for mom.
Like, Yeah, and it was like in a poised way, but kind of just said, "Then what are you going to do to support her?"
Right.
The special education teacher did not agree with her and her, stance on that. And it was from that day forward, I took the medication and I, rocked whatever book she told me I was going to do. I finished her class with an A. And that kind of was the turning point. I kind of always knew I wanted to be a teacher, but never did I see that I could potentially be that.
Right.
But I knew teachers before me who really struck me as the kind of teacher that I would want.
Right.
And then, a few years later, I had this teacher again. Not only was I not in a general education class, I was in a college prep class. And I, soared with A's in her class. And she never thought about that conversation ever again.
No apology, no like, hey, let me talk to you real quick.
No.
I'm so proud of you. No, I'm proud of you.
No.
I mean, we're 15 years later, and you're going to hear me say I'm proud of you. So how dare she not? I mean, I know who she is, and the people who are watching probably do too. But that's where the black eye in our profession comes from, Krista, right? People like that. That's why people are reticent about special ed and getting diagnoses and getting medicated, because people like that are going to tell them they're failures as freshmen. And as girls, the masking and how ADHD presents is completely different than in boys. So
Yeah.
you can just kind of coast along as a girl, be polite, do what you're supposed to do. But at some point, it's going to take effect, and your personality is such and was such that just wasn't going to last forever. So in some ways, I'm really glad that happened to you, because I think that's why you're here now. I mean, that person humiliated you and your mom into believing you were a failure at 14. My daughter's 15.
Yeah.
If that happened, I mean, I don't even know what I would. So, I mean, it's as close to a survivor story as we have on the hot seat. And we'll let people read the chapter, but I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud that you did it, that we're still friends, that you're doing this tonight.
Thank you.
Because you could have very well gone, when she said that, you could have been like, all right, that's it for me. General ed classes, I'll get by with D's. I'll do.
And I do think back, and like, if I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD at that point and had a new medication like at my hands, I don't know how I would have reacted. Like, I really feel like I would have went down a slippery slope.
Yep.
And I held on to resentment, for a very long time. And I think I never spoke of that, out loud until that hot seat. And then, later in the year that I was with you, I wrote my senior paper about her and gave it to her.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the comments, but there's comments pouring in about how proud people are of you and what an awesome person you are. So I agree. That's why you're on here. I'm glad you're doing it. So when you read the book, think about Krista now that you met her in this way, and see what's possible, not because of the hot seat, but because of kind of believing in yourself, despite what lunatic teachers will say about you. So I'll take deep breaths when I think about the story, because it pisses me off so much, but I'm just glad that we can laugh about it now. All right.
You know what, though? It doesn't even piss me off anymore, because I feel like she was such a prominent memory that I had that really imprinted on me. But after I got through that, there's so many other people that imprinted on me in the better way and in the positive way, and picked you up when you were down, or pushed you to the max that you could be, whether that was a C or an A.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah.
And now I look at that, and if I ever really have a hard day with my students, I'm like, at least I would never ever do that to them. I would never put them in a box.
And what a value add it is, because you see little Kristas running around every year, right? Kristas who are undiagnosed ADHD, right? I mean, there are, right? And I just had this conversation in school today about a girl that we're concerned about moving into the next grade level, because we think she's ADHD, but she's so sweet and such a rule follower. But then you look at her and she's not paying, she's spaced out, but she's masking. She's doing a really good job but she's in 4th grade. You're in 9th grade. So at least the value is that you can see little Kristas and catch them and help them, and do the opposite of what that teacher did.
Yeah, and another thing too that kind of enlightens me is that I have really good relationships with parents. And if there's kids that already are on medication, and I can see it's time that they definitely increase them. Yep. We talk about my own journey, and then I just got a student that, we had a long talk with the mom, and she finally agreed to get her tested, and here she's, all the flags and indicators of somebody with ADHD. And I always tell my story. Yep. So we're, as teachers, we're really not supposed to talk about medication, but I mean, I can see the obstacles that parents face if they want to do medication or go at like a less invasive approach. Right. But I feel like I have a very good and open dialogue with parents because of my background, which is really.
Yep. Yeah, I'm proud of you for that too, because if you kept it to yourself, it's something that needs to be, it's a story that needs to be told. Now, what they do with that information, you can't determine, mm-hmm. right? I talk about my anxiety all the time with my staff and with select students, so they know it's okay to have Absolutely. What they have. But I think that's where we kind of stumbled upon here is like, we can share with our students that which makes us flawed, but also complete. And I think that your story is a perfect example of the flaw that identified itself at 14, made you complete and led you to where you are now. So it's such a great story. And, when I started putting together ideas for IG Live, I was just hoping I could get you to come on. So I'm glad you did. So now it's time for your new hot seat. It's time for your 2011 to 2025 question.
Oh boy.
So go ahead. What number?
What does it go up to?
143.
Okay. I'm going to go with 29.
All right. 29. Is most betrayal planned or accidental? So while she's thinking, guys, this is what I taught the kids to do, right? You look up, pregnant pause, you think, you don't say anything, you don't start playing with the hair. I'm going
to say it really depends on the person. I feel like this is a very, it's not just a black and white question. There's definitely a gray area. I think it depends on the person.
Totally agree. But you're the person.
Yeah. I definitely think that betrayal, it can definitely be planned if you're a manipulative, and malicious type of person.
Yep.
And I see a lot of that. I don't particularly think that I've played a part of that, but I think that there's many more people that are very planned in their actions.
Okay.
And it's more so, I think it comes from jealousy. If I had to pinpoint any big reason, I think that when people feel weak or not confident in an area, they're going to probably target, somebody who might be comfortable in their own mm-hmm. skin. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a quick way to be friends and then kind of take somebody down at the same time.
So do you think this is something that is more specific to adolescence when our brains are still forming? We're not really sure about our steady footing with friendships and relationships, or do you think this develops over into adulthood when we have more complex relationships?
I think adolescence is where you decide what type of betrayal that you want to give. I think that you dabble in the planned and unplanned, and then you kind of see where you fall.
Okay.
If you fall on top, you're going to realize that, betrayal can get you some mm-hmm. places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I think if somebody realizes that and doesn't have remorse, I think it's, going to just take over their adulthood. But I definitely think adolescence is where, like you said, our brains are not fully developed. You hope that you have that guilt and remorse that kind of realize that you're wrong in betrayal, mm-hmm. not kind. And I kind of think that goes along with leading into where people cheat and, talk behind people's back. And, obviously everybody talks behind each other's back, but hopefully it's more on the venting sessions, and not super malicious.
Right.
But I definitely think it tapers into adolescence, but then it's where you go with that, into adulthood for sure.
So that's an interesting bridge to last week, actually, where we talked about forgiveness. The question that Kaylee had was, who's the bigger person, the one who apologizes or the one who forgives? So as it plays out in this question, if the betrayal is planned, does the apology matter?
I feel like people who have planned betrayal, if they apologize, there's going to be a but afterwards. And when you apologize, I don't think that there should be a but.
Okay. So the accidental betrayal won't have a qualifier,
Right.
but the people who have planned it out, understand the pain they're going to cause, and do it anyway. Because now you're talking about like sociopathy, we're talking about narcissism and a real deep psychology where people know they're doing it and just don't feel like, and you kept saying remorse and guilt. I don't think that typical planned betrayal comes with remorse or guilt, because that's the trigger that would have stopped them from doing it in the first place. So I think and it's a very complex thing, especially as adults, because, getting cheated on at 15 is different than 35, right? There's a complete different dynamic there. And it doesn't have to be cheated. Like betrayal can take shape in lots of different ways. Friendships, right? Any betrayals and friendships from high school that still stick with you? Any friends that you were friends with back then that just aren't anymore for one reason or another?
I'm not one to really like hang on to things, but
Good. Yeah.
I had a really tight group of like 6 of us.
Remind me, I
and
forget. Who was in your crew?
Everman, Morgan Everman,
Yep.
Jenna,
Yep.
Burke,
Yep.
Catherine, Desiree. We've just kind of like all parted ways.
Okay.
Besides Emily and Morgan.
Yeah, see Morgan was on the call.
Yeah, love Morgan.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was any sort of like major betrayal. It was just, we're all still like silent, cheerleaders for everyone.
Sure.
But honestly, the biggest betrayal in high school was that teacher.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we didn't talk about that. The betrayal of an adult to a child, right? Somebody who's tasked with doing a thing and they choose to destroy that thing. Again, the power that teachers, coaches, any mentor, leader role has comes with the expectation that you're going to do everything you can to not harm a child.
Yeah.
Regardless of the age or the gender. And what happens too a lot of times, Krista, as is like sometimes the parent is the problem and the kid takes the brunt of it, right? And as teachers, it's hard for us to be like, listen, mom, it's you. you're the problem, right? We can't say it. We're not allowed to say that. So just like the medication comment, like we can say your kid needs medication and he will thrive. With their parents, and as a parent, I think to myself, and I say to myself and my kid's mom all the time, like, we're so fortunate that our kids are who they are for a lot of reasons, right? They've been through a lot themselves, are just great kids. But I think I would have the awareness to be like, all right, yeah, I get it. It's my kid. We're going to do everything we can to help him, as opposed to, nope, what are you guys going to do? So that's just our curse a little bit as educators. All right, Krista, any parting words, parting thoughts before I let you go? Oh no, we're going to end the way we started. Okay. All right, you're back now.
Yep.
Any parting thoughts before we go?
I did want to just give you a shout out. Like the amount that I learned about you as not just a teacher, but like really taking notes of this, like your whole career, is so intriguing to me. And then what I didn't know about Mr. Borden and you, like the relationship there.
Yeah.
And now like being on the flip side of that and having relationships with the peers that I have like at work.
Yeah.
It's it's really wild that those people, there's secret relationships that you don't even realize because you don't voice how deep rooted you feel about certain people.
Yeah.
You talking about your anxiety, which I feel like so many people, have, but you not knowing this until much later in life.
Much later, yeah.
And then, just things and tribulations that, attributed to your anxiety. I just think is really, really unique. And I passed this book around to a few of my colleagues, one because I thought I was famous. But
you are.
First off, I had no idea that it was going to be a chapter.
Dude, I had to ask your permission. You don't remember this? It was like 3 years ago.
But like, I didn't really like, I don't think I knew like the magnitude of like what this really was going to be.
Did you say magnitude? Did you just make up a word magnitude here on the spot?
What was I trying to say? The magnitude.
I'll take magnitude too.
Thank you. But you know what I mean? Like I really didn't, the kind of like little shout outs that you had in each chapter at the end of like little discussions with other past students, that's kind of what I thought it was going to be about.
I see.
I didn't realize that you were going to have like a breakdown of certain, topics of the questions. But it is so funny that I started this hot seat like a little while ago with my students, and now like your book came in, and I've been kind of just taking note and how to like reframe these questions.
Yeah.
And it really is, their kids are just so much more capable and
willing.
knowledgeable.
I totally agree.
And I always say I'm going to get in trouble one day because my morning meetings are so deep. Like kids cry and we just talk about, and I don't just talk at them. I share stories with them.
Yep.
And when they get to me, it's like awkward. And now they thrive. They want to do the hot seat just as much as I wanted to. And now I've even done double hot seats where they debate a topic and I give them a pro and a con.
That's so awesome.
It's really cool because, again, you have to shape it to your audience, right?
Yeah.
And you have to set by example. So, like, I let them ask me questions.
Yeah. You should.
And sometimes they really, like, they kind of really stun me with, like, where they go with things. And
listen, I was just over at college and middle school with Jess Turcott, who I taught in 2001, and I did it with her kids on Wednesday. First of all, I was flying high, man. I was like, I haven't done this in so long. It was so amazing, and the kids did such a great job. They were so respectful of each other. So, and then we put Jess in the hot seat after 24 years, which was amazing. So, all that to say, if I know there's not much time left in the year, I will come and do one. We can do it virtually like this, or I'll just come over. I'll bring the chair. We'll do a whole thing. I think the kids need to see you as a student as well. I can't believe, I'm just so thankful that you're doing it with the kids. I mean, this is what I'm saying. When I did this so long ago, I had no expectation this was going to be where it ended up. But so many people, like I'm doing it with, my girlfriends with over wine. I'm doing it with my fourth graders. So I'm not surprised that you're doing it. And I am surprised that you don't, I hope you understand the power of your chapter. And that's why it had to be like the people who are in there as chapters. I joked last week about how short the book is. That was on purpose for a couple of reasons, but one of them is I didn't want to water down the stories that I had, and yours was so powerful. So that's why, I love the class reunion segments at the end, but yours is a story that needed to be told. And now, obviously, telling it this way makes it all the more powerful. So,
and I do want to just tell you one other memory that I have. It's funny when things come up and you think about things in the past. And I remember Kim Verzilli and Regina. I can't remember.
I can see your face.
Nicholas.
Yes, Nicholas. Yeah.
And they both shared about their parents passing away.
Yep.
And I remember vividly, like, I don't know how they're talking about that. I can't imagine the impact. And I, now having my mom had passed away.
Yeah.
I can never, like, the platform that you gave them and like creating the classroom community, that it was a safe place. It is just unbelievable that you created that, because I don't know, had I lost my mom at that age, if I would have been able to do that.
Yeah.
And I think back and I'm like, wow, the strength that somebody had to go through at, that age and be that vulnerable to talk about it in front of their peers. You really never knew what they really went through until they opened up on, in your class. And I remember Kim having to leave like the class after she said it, but I don't think I ever even talked about it with her, but I feel like now looking back at it, had to have been so good for her to like get it out.
Yep. And then the ease with which she was able to leave, there wasn't like, no, and it wasn't like people piled on and want to make you feel better. She needed to get that catharsis out. I have to get this out now. And then go. And remember too, like we had guidance counselors who were amazing and trained to do things like this, but that's a one-on-one with somebody who's not as intimately involved every single day with this group of people. So these little islands that we created for ourselves by class period. And I know it bled into lunch. I know you guys talked about the hot seat and people were sharing about numbers. Don't pick this one, pick this one. But I haven't thought about Kim Verzilli or Regina Nicholas since today. So I'm glad that, because didn't Kim have pink hair? Yeah. So now here we go. So now you guys are making me think back to some of those, because there's a lot of those memories that I wrote a piece for the blog called What I Remember, and there's not much. There's a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, there's a lot of you. I was telling my son. He asked me how many students I had. I said about 1,500 in my time, and we were talking about how hard it is to remember things. But the people like you that I'll never forget are as powerful to me as you remembering Kim and Regina and telling those stories. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh my
I think that's a
gosh.
good way to
Listen,
end the episode.
my problem is that I overshare.
Well, that's why the hot seat's perfect for you.
Yeah.
You killed somebody and you dumped them in the woods
Yeah.
somewhere on
And Emily,
295.
I was telling Emily, and I'm happy Morgan's on here, but
Yeah.
we were all talking, and I was like, I am straight up like shitting my pants doing this. And Emily's like, this is why I won't be tuning in. She's like, because I cannot watch you embarrass yourself, because there will be something that happens. She's like, I will watch it on rewind. Yep.
A lot of
She's like,
people
I
do.
can't have secondhand embarrassment. But she's going to come to the book signing with me.
Oh,
So
awesome. I can't wait to see you guys. See, this is what I'm saying. I just can't wait to see you guys. I think Saturday's going to be a super emotional night. So please, obviously, come find me. Give me a hug. If Emily's there, I'd love to see her too. I'm so glad that you came on. I'm so glad that we're still friends and that you had this experience in the hot seat. And, maybe we'll pass this on to that teacher and she can watch us on
yeah,
her own time.
yeah. She's probably going to need therapy after that.
All right,
Bye,
Krista, thank you so much. I'll see you
All
later.
right. I'll see you Saturday.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.
All right, everybody else, next week, your teaser. You have a double guest coming at you, and they're not former students, but they are my former teachers, and both are so important to me. I've been friends with them now for, I won't say the amount of years, but it's been a while. And I know that many of you love them the way I do. It'll be Beth Canzanese and Lisa McGilloway, our first double panel, and we're going to talk about all the ways in which they helped me become who I am, because I needed them as much as I needed my students. So tune in next week to find out how they are doing, both in retirement, as Lisa's about to retire, and hopefully ask some questions that'll make them sweat. So thanks, guys, for tuning in again. It was a great episode, like I know it would be with Krista. We are 3 for 3 as far as I'm concerned. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll see you later. All right, hot seaters, thanks for tuning in. Before you go, here's how to stay connected. Follow me on Instagram at Brian_Kulak. Check out more resources on my blog over at briankulak.net. Pick up a copy of The Hot Seat or my other book, Level Up Leadership, both available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And please, if you found value in today's conversation, leave us a rating and a review. It truly helps others discover these stories. Share this episode with someone in your life, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week for another conversation in The Hot Seat.